Welcome, everybody. This is Big Papa Michael Lance in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are ahead of the curve. That's the name of our team. We have a vision that we love and we've developed, and it's really just to be impactful to people, to serve them, to allow for them to be the best health they can be, to grow, to be fulfilled, to have joy. The concept of these calls are to be unique, to give each of you something that is out of the world that you probably never heard before, but to be able to digest it in such a way that you can use this information right away. And tonight we are going to introduce a topic that you may or may not have ever heard before. And it's this hidden thing that stops most people. For me, it stopped me for years. And the interesting thing is, it was hidden. I didn't even know I had it. And once I discovered it, my life completely changed for the better. As I work and mentor one-on-one with associates and interview them and listen and really try to get in their head and heart, almost always this hidden thing surfaces. And the beautiful part is, and my belief is, the answer is always inside of you. It's always inside of a person. The key for a mentor role is to ask questions and bring it out just so that you are aware of it. And the reason I selected this topic is the first several people that I have taken through a process of coaching using the John Maxwell team method, these things have surfaced, this hidden thing, and now people can be aware of it and deal with it and make progress. If you really think about the answer to this question and dwell on it as I ask, what stops most people? Many of you are obviously network marketers. Many of you are leaders and want to help your people. You want to help yourself do really well. And as I have assessed that question, I've heard it on stage. The number one thing is fear of rejection, the no, which is a form of fear of failure. We hear, or I've heard oftentimes, is the dreaded, I can't sell, I can't organize, I can't learn what the product does, I can't talk to others. And that talk to others is a symptom too of disconnection of people, where there are some people that are deathly afraid of talking to people. Truthfully, I was so disconnected from people. I had to mask and lie and be in a pretending mode. Like I was totally disconnected from people. We see people that verbal vomit is a sign of this hidden thing, where they throw out all this product knowledge and I'm really good at this, and if I can just inundate you with knowledge, you'll say yes. A lot of people that have this hidden thing rely almost entirely on product knowledge. That's a symptom, because we know from Eric Worre, Kathy Coover, I've preached this. It was a subject of our last Wednesday night call. There's only two things that you need to share: your story with enthusiasm. That's it. I mean, I was a verbal vomit king for years. I could tell you everything is in the shake, all the ingredients, the branched chain amino acids, product B telomeres, all that stuff. I don't do that anymore. I just share my story with enthusiasm. They say, how does it work? I go, I don't know. Just put it in your mouth and you get all your questions answered. The biggest question most people have is, will it work for me? Well, here's the answer. Put it in your body. In 2 weeks, you'll know. How simple is that? I just share that with enthusiasm. Being distracted is a sign of this hidden thing. It's a symptom. Drama attraction. Do you know anybody in your life that like puts their mind right in the mix? I mean, if there's good karma or bad karma going on, just and drama, people just jump right in it like they have to, like they feel like they have to. That's a sign of this hidden symptom. Being a perfectionist. See, that's the verbal vomit thing. Brene Brown, in a great book, The Gifts of Imperfection, I highly recommend you get that. Brene, B-R-E-N-E, little caret, Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. She identifies this hidden thing. She actually attempts to allow a person to overcome that. I personally think there's a better way than what she's done, but she's done an awesome job of identifying this hidden thing. Being a people pleaser. You know any people pleasers in your life? I was one, and I was a perfectionist also. And the third P, perfectionist, people pleaser, performer. Got to be on stage. I got to be in front of people. I got to get the pats on the back. Oh my gosh, Mike, you did such a great job. I was pretending. Seriously. Pretending is probably a P that I ought to put in. That's a symptom of this. I often thought to myself, why do really only 1% of the population, 1 in 100, do exceedingly well about the creation of mega joy, happiness, abundance, a big income? Why? They put their pants on the same way I do. I've heard them on stage. Why? Why can't everybody do that? Truth is, you've heard those 1%ers tell you that you can, but the reality is if this hidden thing that you don't see, if you don't deal with it, it ain't going to happen. It's going to stop you cold every time, even though you don't even know it exists. Or the 5%, the 1 in 20. Did you know that 5% of our population controls 95% of the wealth in this country? 1 in 20. So what do the 1 in 20 have? What does the 1 in 100 have? Generally, the 1%ers or the 5%ers don't have this hidden problem. Some do, actually. I could give you my opinion on our presidents, the last several. They have it. So some common threads of the 1%ers and the 5%ers. First of all, self-acceptance. They unconditionally accept themselves. Let that sink in, those two words, unconditionally accept themselves, not conditionally. I accept myself when I'm on stage doing good. I'm getting all the yeses. I accept myself. But if I'm not on stage, I'm not asked to talk, I'm getting no's, I don't accept myself. That's not unconditional. Unconditional means that you accept all outcomes. If you're a believer in Christ and understand his principles he taught, it's called grace. David Wood, our great trainer in isogenics, describes grace in the following way. Accept all offerings. Offerings. You get a no, that's an offering. You get a yes, that's an offering. You get your butt kicked, didn't happen the way you wanted, that's an offering. Everything's going good, they fall in your lap, that's an offering. And the 1%ers and the 5%ers do that. They get a no and they accept it. They know that I'm okay with me. I recognize that if I got a no, that it was supposed to happen for me. What do I need to learn from that? It's not that I'm a bad person. It's not that I'm not going to be accepted. It's not that I can't connect with other people. It's just that you got to know, and you have to respect. This is what I learned, that when the person told me no, it wasn't about rejection. It was about them having their own rights and choices, just like you. That's one of the greatest gifts that man has, is the right to make a choice. And if they said no, and that was through grace, it was through their own thing, then okay, I'm okay with me doing that. Before, I wasn't okay. I mean, if I'd verbal vomit over somebody and they said no, I'd go, oh my gosh, I suck. Truth is, I didn't suck. And people that have this hidden thing believe that they are human doings versus human beings. We're all equal, all of us. I mean, we all have the same heart that beats. We breathe the same air. And that's why a 1%er or a 5%er who figured it out says everybody could have what I have. And yet the 99% or the 95%, however you want to look at the strata, think, oh my gosh, I can't. I can never do that. Well, we got a guest on. Thank you. I'm into this so far, so you'll have to bear with me, or when I post this feed tomorrow, you could watch the first 11 minutes. Anyway, I want to introduce this hidden item now that I've identified the things that would be the symptoms of having it versus not having it. And it's shame. That's what Brene Brown's book's about, shame. And when I talk about shame to somebody for the very first time, they what? I don't get it. I didn't get it when I first heard it. Someone would have said for me to describe shame like a couple of years ago, I go, what? I have shame? Until I read Brene Brown's book in December of 2014. Oh my gosh. I was a perfectionist, people pleaser, and performer. I had everything that she mentioned, yet I didn't know how I got it. I didn't know how to get rid of it. And so some symptoms of you having shame is people believe I'm not good enough. Brene Brown talks a lot about I am enough. And so people say, well, I'm not good enough. I can't. That's where the I can'ts come from that I talked about earlier. And from my experience, from my extensive reading, especially John Bradshaw, get anything from him. He died May a year ago. I cried when he died. He healed me. Once I became aware of shame, it was through his work that I was able to get rid of it. But generally, shame starts in childhood. Your parents may pass it through to you. Teachers pass it through to you. Coaches passed it through to people, friends. And when we get it as a child, I'll just give you a common example. In my own case, I love my dad. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm going to say is truthful. My dad did not accept himself unless his son was like who he thought he should be, which was a mirror of what my dad thought he should be. And so my dad threw a ton of shame at me. I was an intensive studier when I was a kid. Mom got childcraft books. She got Encyclopedia Britannica. I read them all. And I would go to my dad when like he had friends around, and Dad did, and he'd say, why don't you just shut up? Rubber lips, loose lips. So I internalized that I wasn't good enough for my dad in the way I really was as a excited little boy who loved to learn. I figured I must not be good enough. I must not be really good in order to have my dad love me. So my dad, I mean, I had to follow in his footsteps. I had to do all of these other things. And the reality is, he didn't accept himself. When I was a 16-year-old boy, here's another example of the shame I got. We won state championship in basketball that year. We at Rancho High School, 1973. We were 26-1. We were awesome. And there were 3 black players and 2 white players that started, and I was a starter that year. And my dad was a sincere racist, and I think racism is a symptom of having shame. And I looked at my black players like they were way better than I was, and they accepted me for who I was, but my dad didn't. My dad, after a game, would say, "I saw you and those ends won last night." What? So after we won state, now, mind you, I've been playing basketball from the time I was in 6th grade till 3 years in college is when I stopped playing competitively. My dad never went to one game. So I internalized, I must not be good enough for my dad. I can't please him. So he drags me down to the Union Hall as a 16-year-old boy, and he's showing me off. "Oh, here's my son." And everyone, "Dad, oh, he's such a great player. You must be a great dad," all that sort of stuff. And I didn't know any better. Through shame counseling, I was pissed at my dad. He dragged me down there for him, not for me. He wanted to show me off, like he had anything to do with me in basketball. He never went to a game. He never even supported me playing. See, that's a shame we get. So we start pretending in our life. And that becomes internalized. We don't even know it. If it becomes toxic shame, and hopefully none of you have toxic shame, because toxic shame leads to addiction. Drugs, alcohol, pornography, codependency, where you depend on others. I was a codependent, and I had an addiction. So I had to get rid of all this internalized shame, and it was hard. And I'm going to tell you, if you have any of those symptoms I mentioned earlier in the video, there's probably some shame in there. I was working with a brand new associate, and it was in our second one-on-one meeting. And she finally, I think, trusted me enough, because I do a lot of listening, asking questions. She says, "Can I share something with you?" And I said, "Sure." She goes, "Do you know that I was bullied from the time I was a little girl till old, because I was fat?" And she told me that. It like, I get it. I know that feeling. So she had all this internalized. She's actually identified and start working on it. But it stops people in their tracks, and they don't even know they have it. How to overcome it? First of all, it's being aware. That's the coaching process I learned from John Maxwell. As you leaders start working with your people, perhaps this will be a topic of another Wednesday meeting, but coaching isn't you telling them what to do. I did that thinking, "Oh, I'm all good. People, oh, Mike, you're such a great person." And yet you think about, there's only 1% that really succeed, and 99 doesn't. And those 99% go to celebration, ICUs. They hear all that stuff. They read Think and Grow Rich. They read Raymond Hollywell's book, Working with the Law. They're on Dave and Carey's awesome podcast, and they're stuck. They can hear all that stuff all day long, and they're stuck. That was me, stuck, because I had fear of rejection. I had fear of failure. I had all those fears. Didn't even know why. I don't even know how I got to 5-star. I'm serious. It was just pure grace that I got there. And so the John Maxwell coaching process isn't a coach telling what to do. We've all grown up with tellers. That's school teachers. That's football coaches. I had a football coach my senior year that took me behind his shed and slapped the crap out of me, drew blood out of my nose. I wasn't good enough for him unless I was making tackles. Okay. I had a football coach I played with for 3 years, 2 in high school, 1 in college. Not one time did he ever praise me. Oh, he got the great athletes. Oh, this is a great athlete. He's so good. Not one time. See, you internalize, like, I'm not good enough. I'm going as hard as I can, doing the best I can. I wasn't good enough. But the coach I had when we took state, he praised me, all of us, felt good playing for him. So in the coaching process, it's drawing out a person's awareness. In all of these times that I work with some people, can't mention their names, I asked a ton of questions and listened. And once I hear little nuggets where I think maybe shame or distractions or whatever's in the way, then I just ask questions about that. And so when you become aware that, one, let's say you have fear of rejection, and I might ask, why do you think you have it? And you give me this big long story, and then I start asking some more questions, targeted questions. And oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times I've had people say, man, that was a great question. I'm going to have to think about that. Yes. So becoming aware is number one. If you have deep shame, you might need a professional counselor, like I did. Thank goodness for my wife who turned me on to that. And I started working with him, and he turned me on to John Bradshaw. I read every one of his books. The best one I read was Homecoming. I actually, on my blog, if any of you want access to it, I will give you the link, because you can't get to it unless you know where it's at. Or if you go to my blog and just type in the search John Bradshaw, it will pop up. And I've recorded 10 videos that he did for public television, and it's about his book Homecoming. And so I read the book and started doing the exercises, and I finally learned where my shame come from, like the incident with my dad at the plumber's hall, incident with football coaches. I got it. I saw it. Oh my gosh, I'm okay. I just got the shame they gave me. I'm still a great human being. I never thought I was. I hid. I was a hider. I was stuck in the corner. At a dance, I could dance, but I just acted out. I was scared to death. So self-awareness of this thing called shame is really important. Self-study, self-reading, get a good mentor. Any of my associates that are listening to this, I will mentor you and work you through the John Maxwell process. It's what I charge other people that are not on my team, as much as $500 a month. And I'll do it for you just because you're an associate. So get a good mentor. Learn where your shame comes from. Most people I've talked to about this, when I can just describe how shame happened to me, they go, oh my gosh, my parents were that way. My teachers were that way. Oh my gosh, my coaches were that way. Oh, I had people that bullied me. I had people that teased me. Connection with group work. I'm actually a missionary in our church for the 12-step addiction recovery program, the 12 steps based on the Alcoholics Anonymous. Our church has identified those 12 steps and twisted it and added Christ in there. And yet group work is important, because all addicts, all people that have this internalized shame, even if it's not toxic, and even if you're not an addict, if you have all those other symptoms, fear of failure, fear of rejection, I can't, all those things I mentioned in the beginning, group work, because we're disconnected from people. The opposite of fear of failure isn't that you can overcome it, it's that you can connect to people. That's the number one positive thing, is connect. So the people on the stage, how often are you just in the audience connected to them? See, they got it figured out, because they have self-acceptance. They can get on stage and connect to people. You just have this affinity. Brene Brown calls it being authentic. She defines that as the daily practice of letting go who you think you're supposed to be. In other words, I got to be like my shameful parents told me to be. I got to be like a shameful coach told me to be. I got to pretend, not who I really am. So the daily practice of getting rid of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you are. That's the definition, but getting there's some work. So connection and group work. Find some friends you can just talk to, and you can tell them anything. in complete confidence they won't share. And when you do that and you start connecting with your eyes to people, you can get rid of that shame. Anyway, I only have 5 minutes left here, and I'm glad Sonia's on. I got one, and I've got a big dream that if you can understand this and you connect to anything that I've said today, you meaning everyone that's watching this, not just Sonia that's online, but anybody, you could start right now discovering and being aware of what this is. And if I got a little cold today, got a little runny nose. If you can, like, there's a spark, like, yeah, I think I have that. Okay. And you're not moving forward in your Isogenics business. So you got spark, not moving forward the way you really think you could. There's probably the hidden thing. It may be something else. I granted. It may be something that I can't help you with. I'm no psychologist. I'm no counselor. Have I read extensively? Yes. Probably 15 books on this. Went through my own counseling, helping others. Working with my 12-step addict brothers who come Tuesday nights, and we just love on each other. And I hear the same story over and over and over again. I see them recover exactly like the people I'm working with in Isogenics. They recover from this hidden shame, and boom, sky's the limit. I can't wait for a couple that I'm working with are going to have phenomenal results. Why? Because they're like, they got rid of their distractions, and I'm going for it. If any of you that are listening think that you have some of this, I would be absolutely willing to chat with you in a private conversation. And I don't even want you to go down certain paths. I may stop. I don't want to hear that, to protect and to keep a boundary. But other stuff I can listen, and I will send you to resource after resource. When I post this online, I'll give everyone the resource to John Bradshaw that's on my blog. And I'll list perhaps a couple of books that may work. But really, it's if you could just talk through with me, I can get you started on a path to get rid of the shame. So you just feel good about really and accept who you are. When I first heard David Wood say, accept all offerings, okay, that made sense to me. But he's really just saying, accept yourself. Accept the offering of who you really are. And you know what? You're just as perfect as anybody else. Really. You're no different than the person on stage earning $1 million a year. I'm serious. They will tell you that. And when you start believing that, because there's no shame, sky's the limit. I hope this was helpful. I hope this is something you could take, and tomorrow start doing it. If you want to text me, 702-497-9649. I'll repeat, 702-497-9649. You can send me a Facebook message. You can email me at triumphanthealth. That's all kind of one word together, triumphanthealth@cox.net. And just schedule, 30, 45 minutes, an hour to talk with me. And hopefully I can, at least we can identify some through awareness, some things, and you can move forward. All right. That ends our call. I appreciate my one person. Way to go, Sonia. She's got a big smile on her face. And I just love this woman and her family, her daughters. They just brighten me up. I'm serious when I follow them on Instagram and stuff. So they're just the best. All right. You guys take care. Love all of you. Hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to end the meeting now. Bye now.